Hello again, everybody. I'm going to do another tutorial. I would like to cover multi-dimensional arrays, and the best way for me to do this is in a cart, system cart. I work with e-commerce sites a lot, so a really simple cart system has a very good example of a multi-dimensional array. Where best place to get it from is a practical use. So that's how I learn. You show me a practical use and I will be able to adapt it, mold it into something else further down the line if I wish to organize something in such a way. So I hope this helps you the same way it helps me. Alright, so it's actually not even needed up there. That's something else that I was editing. I thought I deleted it, but apparently not. Anyway, that's from another tutorial, and all we need to know is everything from here down. So we got PHP session start. The session is called cart, but you only have to start a session for it to be the only session that actually is running. Right? Okay, I don't know if that's the right way to explain it, but basically the session starts the cart session. And then include a script. Of course, I left a generic name. It's not actually the connect script I use, but yes. And if you ever make tutorial videos, always remember to rename your connection scripts and actually, yeah, if you have a cart system and you want to pull it, rename the connection script and telling people how to do videos. That's interesting. Or something else. Oh yeah, change the hidden values for your emails. I think there's two parts in this system that does that. Right there and right there. Yeah, they're both hidden fields so that they can communicate with PayPal, which is the way my cart system's set up, is to go to PayPal and you can retrieve information from PayPal, but this is really only about the multi-dimensional arrays. So I'm going to pull apart from the cart system and tell you exactly how it interlinks with the other parts of the cart system. Just one particular section. That way this video is not like 30 minutes to an hour long. Alright, so here's the part I'm going to do right here. This is if you try to add something to the cart system from the items menu, it goes to the cart page and says, hey, if the product ID, PID, is set, then make sure it's just a number. It's always a good feature to have. Make sure it's just a number. And then I know you guys have seen a lot of this now, so I'm kind of speeding up a little bit, and I hope you've had time to kind of develop your other skills too. So if I go too fast, you can always pause it, right? And of course, if you can't read this, this is 720p. Just you have to manually up the resolution to HD. So that's just what you have to do. I've tried several times to make it automatically pick it up, but it just won't. So your guess is as good as mine. Alright, so if it's set, it grabs the PID that you just selected to add to cart, right? And you have to have a little condition on here. If it was found equals false, it's going to do something else. Okay, but if it's true, you'll actually just overwrite that with true. See down there? Anyway, let's get to understanding the cart system. And you need to count, because each one needs counted separately. We have a quantity, and in this particular instance, you're allowed to change the quantity on the cart page, so we have to have a quantity. That's why you see that quantity there. And this little count will help us to change that quantity further down the line. Alright, so that's how that's set up. Now here's the session. Here is the multi-dimensional session and what you have to do to make it look right. If is not set session cart array count session cart array is less than 1. See that? It's saying if or it's less than 1. So if it's not set or is less than 1, then the item ID is paired up with 0. See, this is array. An array. This is your array. Right here. Starts here. Ends here. In an array. Which starts here. Oops. Control Z. Sorry about that. Starts here. And ends right here. And this is what's called a key pair. You just have to memorize this part of it because key pairs go together. And this is a little symbol that says I, as in 0, me, I go to this whole thing right here. So you can put an array and a key pair. One of the key pairs can be an array. See? Clever, huh? So 0 equals this array, which is item ID, which would be PID, and quantity, which will be 1. If is not set session cart array. Oh yeah, so it's telling it to run even if it's empty. See? Good thing I left those notes there, right? And if you want to see this explained in a different way, go to develop.php. That's where this generic cart system was expanded upon. So he might have it in one big step. If you watch his whole series on e-commerce, you will find the same kind of setup. Just for another reference. But anyway, so if the cart is empty, it still wants to run the cart page. If you don't, then nothing will show up, and that'll be bad. So you use a multidimensional array to make the quantity of item ID 1. You force it to be 1, because if it's less than 1, this is a completely pointless statement, I think. Because it forces it to be 1. Oh no, that's not pointless. Never mind. Think about it this way. If it's less than 1, it's forcing it to be 1. Yeah. Explained it right the first time. Moving on. Else. This is where it starts breaking up the items. Even though it only adds it one at a time, if you were to add another item, which is what the count is for, if you were to add another item, you have to be able to splice that array. So we'll get down to that. So for each, as in for each item, for each session cart array, which is each item, as each individual item, in other words, basically this says that for each item being its own individual item, plus 1. Plus 1, while your list, which is all the different products you're going to put on there, key values, which are these things in the array, item ID, PID, that's one key pair, key item, and here's another one, while each key value pair, each item, as in the session cart array, just track it back and forth. You can read this, and it reads pretty much how it should, and I hope it makes sense. It's a little bit harder to describe these things, and you have a little bit harder time naming the variables and keeping track of them at the same time. But once you've seen it enough, you'll just be like, oh yeah, I get that. Okay, that's just a different way to do a different kind of count. Different kind of count and splitting and doing stuff with the count. Yeah. Anyway. And then if key equals item ID, which of course, in other words, if the item ID exists, if it's set. If it's not set, it's going to do this and just throw out a blank page or something. And if it is set and does have a PID in it, then the value equals PID. So each item has its own separate key value pair where the value equals its own separate PID. Make sense? I hope so. I don't know any other way to explain it. It's pretty much all this stuff is required to be able to get the information in the order that you need it. Alright, so and then we're going to do another preset other than this list preset up here called array splice. And what array splice is going to do is going to take your session cart, your count minus 1, and then it's another multi-dimensional array. Your array has an array in it. In other words, just like up there, up top there, the array has an array in it because you have to separate each individual one. You're splicing that multi-dimensional array into an individual row. You're taking the individual rows information for each product. That's what this does. Array item ID equals PID, quantity equals each item quantity. See? Equals each item's quantity plus 1. See? That is clever. So each item counts as 1, and then every additional item put onto that is going to plus 1. It starts at 0, of course, and if there's nothing there, it adds the 1 but doesn't splice the array. That's a good way to say it. This part adds the item quantity but does not splice the array. That way you don't have anything in your cart. Not that there was anything to begin with, right? If it's not there, it's not there. Alright, so in this case, the was found is true because they found an item. Alright, the display comes later, and I think I'll show you the display. So you close all this out. If was found equals false, you'll do this little preset thing here called array push, and session cart array item ID equals PID, and quantity equals 1. So you push the array. If was found equals false, then you're pretty much going to do this, what you did up here, the same thing that you did up here. Okay, that's all you're doing. You're reinforcing the, because if you do it here and this overwrites and you can never overwrite it again, then you won't be able to have an empty cart. I don't know. It's just covering all your bases. If you think about the logic long enough, it makes sense why it's there. Especially anytime there's a count involved, you usually end up repeating something that's completely necessary, like that first part's repeated down here, but in an array push instead of just a session cart array. See, I mean, it's there, the session cart array, but you're pushing kind of back this direction without a loop. Yeah, because you don't really end a loop here. All the loops are ended up here. So you always have to have your loop, and then you have to do it the same thing over again once your loop is finished, just to make sure you're not getting anything else. Yeah, that's the best way I can explain it. It's kind of the way I understand it, is you need the loop, you need the loop, you need the loop, and then when you end the loop, you still have to check for information. If you don't check, then you lose out on something. And then of course we're headering to location cart because we want to stay on the cart page. If you don't want to stay on the cart page, fine, but I suggest staying on the cart page. I think it looks better. And then exit. Okay, so this is other stuff. This is else if. The else if to that, if it is set in the beginning. So basically this first section is if it's not set in the beginning. This other section else if is if it is set. Not set is set. You always want to do the not set first because it's just more logical to do it that way. You run into less errors when you cover yourself beforehand and then do what you expected to do afterwards. Yeah, just a better way to do it. And this is pretty much the same exact thing. Same exact thing. Except for, I think it's reversed. No, it's, yeah, same exact thing. You pretty much copy paste it, pretty much. It's like one or two things different. Might just be the if statement. If is set, else if is set, post PID. I think it's exactly the same. Yep. All right. So there you have it. That's that part. Let's go see how you echo it out onto the page. And I believe it's a cart output. Yep, renders the cart for people to see. Yeah. So the cart output, this is just cart total in the PayPal checkout bin, and the product ID array all have to equal nothing, because when you first do a dynamic list, it has to equal nothing until you actually put something in it, right? So we don't care about the PayPal checkout bin, which is this section here. This is the for each loop. This is what makes each product appear in whatever manner you want it to. So for each session cart array as each item, as in, you know, each individual product, item ID equals each item ID. Kind of a no-brainer, but you need it. And then you do a query to the database and select all from products where ID equals, of course, the item ID. So go through each row and get each item and spit them out individually. That's what this for each as condition is. For each as each item, while it does a MySQL query, will actually just divide it up into individual, section it out into individual products. Of course, you pull the same stuff from the database that you normally would, except for ID. You don't need it there. And then you can do whatever else you want, you know, get the price total, price each item quantity, you know, price times each item's quantity. So if they do more quantity, you have to multiply that price by that so you can charge them properly for it. Anything else we need in here? Oh yeah, here's the cart output. This is table, because you're through this whole thing you're extending the value, not overwriting. So as you can see, blah 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 blah. This is how you concatenate the values into the cart output, which is just a table. And at the end of the cart output, you end the table row. So every row goes in, and you go +1, ++1. Sorry, my nose itches. And that will keep adding the items in until you don't have any more items to add. Right? Yep. X1 + 1. Yeah. For each while. And then boom, spits it out. Spits it all out for each individual cart item. Then ends the table row. And of course, you have a bunch of hidden inputs, hidden, that you need for the, what do you need those for? Oh yeah, well, PayPal. Sorry, I got bugs in here. It's annoying me. So it runs through PayPal, and this is a bunch of PayPal stuff I may or may not tell you about, but really I wanted to get the multi-dimensional array part here. This is pretty much a multi-dimensional array session. Okay? Session cart array. Array. See? That's it. That's it right there. And this is how you splice that array right down here. Okay? Yep. I hope you enjoyed. Likes are appreciated. Subscriptions are awesome. If you want to know, have any questions, comments, always awesome too. Gives me ideas. Lets me expand upon something. go into something. But like I said before, I'm kind of wanting to stick to pieces, parts. Having a couple blocks in a video is okay. Having like 5 different blocks in a video, not so good. Takes too long to explain, and I really like breaking it down. But this kind of needed the whole show you the output, which is, like I said, right here, concatenated, not concatenated, but expanded upon instead of just overwriting. That's what the period does. Expands upon the value. Lets you put more and more onto the same table. Right? And of course, you concatenate all the values into the array, into the card output, sorry. I suppose you could do it to the array too. I think they do it a couple times. Nope, they just use the variables. See? Just use the variables. You can do that up there. It's just when you're writing in code and it's red, if you want to break the values in there, you have to do the whole period space, name of the variable space, period, and then put spaces in between the brackets. That breaks the code. Yeah, so if you're using single quotes will break the code, and you'll have to single quote it to start the code back up again, then end the single quote. You know what to do. I don't have to tell you those things. We're beyond that. We're past that. Okay, so see you next time. Likes, subscriptions, and yeah, see you next one. Bye.